The Home Secretary, James Cleverly, and we're going to talk to him this morning. Good morning, Mr. Cleverly.
Good morning. Good morning.
Now, do you actually believe there are thousands of people this morning waiting in Calais thinking, we mightn't just cross yet, we're going to wait until there will be a Labour government, which is looking very likely?
Well, I have seen the reports from Telegraph journalists who went to northern France, who spoke to those people waiting on the French coast, and their words were that they were waiting for a Labour government because they had heard that Labour were going to take Rwanda off the table. So these are not my accusations, these are direct quotes from people waiting in France. And indeed, one of them said that they are praying for a Labour government because they had heard that Labour were going to scrap the Rwanda scheme.
Although we spoke to Nigel Farage ourselves, who was in the Channel and actually witnessing, I think it was taking the toll to over 50,000 migrants since Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister. But I wonder, I mean, talking about migration, we're looking at what's happened in France, Marine Le Pen giving Macron a bit of a thumping, and largely over this issue of migration. Is there a bit of a warning there, do you think, about what might happen here on Thursday?
Well, I gave a speech in New York at the tail end of last year where I said that if governments don't get a grip of immigration and work cooperatively and internationally, there is a risk that extremist parties take advantage of the disquiet. And I've been saying that since I was first appointed as Home Secretary. And the Conservatives are taking action. I brought down legal migration, and the policies that I put in place are predicted to reduce legal migration by about 300,000. And the work that we are doing with the Rwanda scheme and other elements of it will have a deterrent effect on small boats. But all those things are at risk under Labour, and I worry that when Labour, not if, when Labour falls short on this issue, the anger of the British people could erupt in a whole load of different ways. That is why it's so important people think very carefully how they vote on the 4th of July.
And you know, just listening to you there, James, if this migration thing continues to spiral upwards, and if it gets worse under Labour, what would that cost us? How on earth do we pay for that?
Well, that's a really important question. Now, border control has never been free, so we have to understand that. But when Rishi and Keir Starmer had their debate, and Keir Starmer said, "Oh, I will break the criminal gangs," when pushed by the Prime Minister, when asked how are you actually going to do that, he had no answer. He's going to scrap the Rwanda scheme. Their big policy announcements are the creation of two new Home Office units, a border command and a returns unit. They both already exist. They're already existing in the Home Office. So Labour are basically saying they are going to do less and somehow achieve more. It's like having an immigration policy where you're praying for rain. You have to actually have a plan. We have a plan. Labour do not.
Nigel Farage wants to be, and thinks he could well be, the largest opposition party. And there is a problem, isn't there, for Rishi Sunak and indeed the Conservatives when you have a leader who you suspect, come Friday, probably won't be the leader of the party. So you're asking people to vote for someone who probably won't be there. Whereas Nigel Farage is saying, you know, should I get elected, I'm going to be the real voice of opposition. And that's a problem for you guys, isn't it?
Well, voters only vote for their local candidates. And, Rishi is standing in Yorkshire, Nigel is standing in Clacton. So you are voting for your local candidate. And I know Nigel loves it to all be about him, but the simple fact of the matter is he doesn't have any more answers to this challenge than Labour does. And at this election, the choice is really simple. Which of the two parties that can credibly form a government do you want to form a government? Do you want it to be the Conservative Party? We have a plan. We are determined to bring down immigration. Or Keir Starmer's Labour Party, which is led by a man who said that all immigration legislation was racist. The Labour Party has voted against stronger border controls over 130 times, voted to delay the Rwanda scheme, which is why it's not yet up and running. So that is the choice at this election, and I think those undecided voters that are still out there in significant numbers in the last days of this campaign will think, hang on a second, what do I really want? A party led by someone who took the knee when our police officers were getting assaulted during the BLM protests, or a party led by someone who's absolutely committed to doing the right thing by the British people?
There's a report today, front page of the Eye, which basically says that neither you nor Labour, really have a clue with what to do with the economy. The headline is UK heading for stagnation after the election. Dozens of economists warning Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer that they're failing to offer a serious plan to grow the UK economy. There's a lack of investment, and that's set to choke recovery. What would you say to that?
Well, I think the British economy is very much at risk under a Labour government with their enormous hidden tax plans. But let's look at our performance recently. We have got inflation down from over 11% to 2%. We have got wages growing faster than prices now for 6 or 7 months.
Sorry,
yeah, but let's look at what we have done since. No, we've got to understand that much of that inflation was driven by global circumstances. But the point is, the team that are at the head of the government at the moment are a team which has brought inflation down to 2%, has got the fastest growing economy of any country in the G7, wages growing faster than prices, unemployment staying low, international investment in the UK at record numbers. So that is what we have done, and that is what we will continue to do if returned to government.
Yeah.
The Labour Party will stifle business investment, ramp up taxes, crash the economy, increase unemployment. And the reason I know that's what will happen is because that is what they always do. Remember that note? There's no money left. That's what happens when you have a Labour government. They break the economy, and the British people do not deserve that.
Although people will remember the disastrous trust budget and the impact that it had on it. Well, exactly. And also, just to be clear, governments aren't responsible for bringing down inflation. That's the responsibility of the Bank of England, which is independent of government.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. The Bank of England sets interest rates.
Yeah.
The action that the Prime Minister and the Chancellor took in terms of the energy price cap, that had a downward pressure on inflation. Making sure that the public sector pay awards were sensible, that has a downward pressure on inflation. We took action to bring inflation down. The Bank of England is solely responsible for setting interest rates.
Okay.
And we did those inflation reduction measures without driving up interest rates and without driving up unemployment. That was a very, very tight needle to thread, but we did it, and it will be ruined by a Labour government.
James Cleverly, we'll say goodbye to you. We'll let you go. Before I do, did you watch the match last night? I just wondering, did you watch? I don't know if you're a football fan or not. Were you able to watch the match last night?
I finished campaigning literally just before kickoff, so I was watching it on my phone. 90 minutes of pain and anguish. Then obviously extra time lifted my spirits.
Good man.
Well done, Jude.
It might sum up your week this week. Pain and anguish. We'll find out if your patience will be lifted by Thursday, Friday. Thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
And we did mention the Prime Minister's constituency there, Richmond and Northallerton. So it's our responsibility to mention all the other candidates. Jason Barnett standing for as an independent Count Binface party. Daniel Callaghan for the Liberal Democrats. Angie Campion, another independent. Louise Dickens for the Workers' Party of Britain, and Kevin Foster for the Green Party. Rio Goldhammer, the Yorkshire Party, and Nico Omilana, Independent. Brian Richmond, Independent. Sir Archibald Stanton for the monster raving Looney Party, the Prime Minister for the Conservatives, and Lee Taylor for Reform. Tom Wilson for Labour.